In this video, we're going to be going over how to create 3 skin tones using oil pastels. I'm using a mixture of random oil pastels I've got here in the classroom. I've got Reeves, I've got some from Specialist Crafts, which are water soluble. I have some unknown oil pastels. If anybody knows which ones these are that are wrapped in black, leave it in the comments, please. I have a random brand. I think this is, oh yeah, it's Caron d'Arche. I never pronounced that name correctly, but these ones are also water-soluble oil pastels, like the Specialist Crafts ones. And I've got a couple unknown ones as well. So I'm going to be using these oil pastels to make these 3 skin tones. Now, fair disclaimer, oil pastels are not something I choose to use very frequently, but they are something that students like to use, so I'm going to give this a shot in making these 3 skin tones using the principles that I would use for any other material. Just keeping in mind that, one, oil pastels tend to be very large surfaces to work with, so they can get a little muddled and smudged and things like that. And hope for the best, basically. The only other tool that I'm going to be using other than the oil pastels themselves, because I don't use these very frequently, so I don't know what other tools you would use. But one trick I do know is that when I make a mistake, I can get rid of it by using a plastic ruler to scrape off the majority of the pigment. So I have that option should I need it. All right, here we go. Okay, so you can see that I really struggled with this one, and I ended up making her chin way too pink. I probably should have used more of the burnt sienna when doing the tones under her chin. So what I can do to fix that is I can take this ruler and I can scrape a lot of the pink off, and this will allow me to go back in and fix it. You can see there's the oil pastel residue. So I'm going to knock that off my ruler. Make sure you clean your ruler properly before ever using it again for anything, or else you'll end up with little oil pastel bits on all your work. So I'm cleaning some of that off. It won't get rid of all of it, but it will help clean it up a little bit so that I can cut some of that pink out, and I can go ahead and kind of attack that area again. So this time I was using the burnt sienna, and I'm going to be using a bit of this pinky color. There you go. It doesn't quite cut all the pink out of there that I wanted. Possibly should have used this peach instead, but it does help with some of it. As I've said, I'm no expert in oil pastel. It is not my favorite material to use. Mostly just drives me a little crazy because I don't like the feeling of it on my hand very much. But it is a starting point of creating a skin tone that is accurate for this person, Daisy Ridley, the actor who plays Ray. Obviously, when you're working with material, you should experiment before coming to a final piece, especially if it's one that you're unfamiliar with, just to help improve it. I'm not going to do too much in the features, just a little bit to give a bit of definition to that nose, though I think I probably already went too far, because this is all just about getting skin tones, not about doing the full image, just to kind of give you a range of skin tones and how to achieve them. One tip that I would suggest is probably you don't want to start with a pencil sketch, or if you do, you want to lighten it significantly because those pencil lines definitely show through. I probably should have started with a lighter pencil sketch or an oil pastel sketch in a light color that's kind of common to the image. Alright, so I've roughly finished this one, so I'm going to move on to the next image. With this one, I struggled a little bit to get the image quite right. I took a chance with this oil pastel by Caran d'Arche, which is generally a very good company that I like using in the classroom. However, it was a little bit dry. I am pretty sure it's an oil pastel, quite frankly. But I think it just might be quite old, maybe. But it's quite dry, and it gave sort of a scratchier effect that I was expecting when I was using it very lightly. This is sort of what I mean. It's very scratchy, even makes a scratchy sound. Whereas when I press hard, I am getting that nice oil pastel color. I was using this to try to get the olive tones in Oscar Isaac's skin accurate, and although I've got some of them shining through, it created a bottom layer where the texture just didn't work. When I tried applying it over top of the other oil pastels, it just carved right through them. So I really didn't like how this affected the other oil pastels. Generally though, I'm happy-ish with the outcome, but it didn't work as well as I was expecting. Alright, so there's one last one to go. Okay, so you might have noticed during that time that I really struggled with the brown that I was using. It's kind of a raw umber, and it was not working right, and it was shifting the oil pastels around and not applying straight. I thought it was just something to do with the green when I tried it over here, down here at the neck, where it didn't work very well. But then it made a complete mess of John Boyega's face. And I realized it was just not working. So I went back and I grabbed a few more oil pastels from my cupboard and found one that is applying better. You can see the difference between the bad one here and the good one here. It's a huge difference. This one looks really dry, whereas this one looks nice and juicy, which is what an oil pastel should look like. I'll take that chance to fix this one up. And because of that, it was not working right. It's really made a big mess of this. And it's looking super scratchy and not good. So I had to actually go in and apply some black oil pastel to try to define a few of the areas, because it just got so messy. I'm not happy with the final result. As I said, oil pastels, not my strong suit. But I did get some areas that worked a little bit well, like along the cheekbone, getting the different colors that are showing up in the light across his cheekbone. That definitely worked out better than it did with Daisy Ridley over here. Overall, I'm definitely happy with both the guys and I am with her. Hers, I don't know if it's the angle of face, but it keeps driving me nuts. I just can't get that skin tone right at all. So just be aware that you need to test not only what your colors look like, but I should have tested how the colors apply on top of one another before I got to my actual piece, because twice now this has caused a problem with not having oil pastels that were still in good condition, and quite frankly that I was positive they were oil pastels, because I'm still not 100% sure on this one. I found another one in the box and the label's a little scrubbed out, but I can see more of it, and I'm not 100% sure this is oil pastel, because I think I saw the word wax on it. And if it's wax, then it's a crayon, not an oil pastel. Alright, so that's roughly how we work in oil pastels to make these three skin tones.